What if there was an illegal piece of media disguised as a video game? And what if I told you that there is a small chance you actually own this game? And what would that mean for you? In your opinion, as an investigator, could this game get you arrested?
Yeah, I fully believe there's potential at this game. Talking about it, and knowing what it contains could get somebody arrested.
In 2004, a video game was released to the masses. A game that took nudity, partying, and cheap trivia, then packed them into a video game with a party-style premise. A game that was distributed by the masses, advertised for major companies, and sold in every retail store that would carry video games. A game that took the tropes of late-night trash TV and brought them into your home consoles. The Guy Game. Released in August of 2004, however, this game was only out for a few months before it was completely pulled from the shelves and suddenly surrounded by serious legal questions. What happened? How could a video game suddenly become illegal? What if you bought this game when it was released, forgot about it, and it's now sitting somewhere in storage under your possession? In 2004, physical media was everywhere. DVDs, CDs, video games. If something became popular, it got printed onto a disc and sold by the millions. The rise of mainstream TV was being digitized and sent straight to your home. And thus began the beginning of a new era, the rise of trash TV. New reality shows were hitting the mainstream. The Swan, Jerry Springer, and Cheaters. All examples of trash TV at its finest. However, there existed a series of DVDs that could only be bought by calling a toll-free number. And just about everyone from that era knows these commercials from late-night television.
Warning, this video contains explicit material not suitable for children.
Girls Gone Wild was everywhere on cable television. Its premise was simple, yet disturbing. Send camera crews to spring break, Mardi Gras, college campuses, find impressionable women, and exploit them. Major scandals began pouring in against the company. You see, in 2008, it was revealed in a lawsuit against the company that one of the girls featured in the videos was only 17 at the time, thus putting a halt to all production and distribution of this footage until a further investigation could be had. However, we're not here to talk about Girls Gone Wild. We're here to discuss another series, one that took direct inspiration from Girls Gone Wild. Following the same format of sending the camera crew to a popular destination, finding young women, and getting them to take their clothes off. The Guy Game was marketed directly to consumers who feed off this style of content. And top-heavy studios, the makers of the Guy Game, don't shy away from this. They fully leaned into their audience. The Guy Game puts you in the world's wildest party spot with the steamiest spring break action ever. Shot live at South Padre Island, this red-hot trivia challenge lets you play with over 60 smoking co-eds during spring break insanity, as they proudly show off their assets for your personal enjoyment. You bring the party, and we'll supply the game. You'll score every time. The game was presented in a trivia style, where you were presented with general questions, and if you successfully answered them correctly, well, you would get a reward. Say the right answers, and you would be given a cutscene of a girl taking her top off. The first round would apparently be censored, but if you keep playing, get your questions right, you would be presented with full frontal nudity. And in the game, this was apparently referred to as the flashometer, which had 3 levels. Soft and squishy. Any nudity was blurred by the game's logo. Sorta chubby. The logo was removed, but the nudity was still blurred. And finally, super stiff, which was uncensored nudity. And this gameplay was glorified from the developers of Top Heavy. You see, on their website, this is corroborated. Here at the Guy Game, we've been getting a lot of emails asking about the censorship level of the game. Letters like, are the boobs in your game covered, blocked, or otherwise obscured through the whole game? Dudes, what's up? Am I gonna have to sit through the whole game and not get to see any titties? Let me begin by saying that everyone here at the Guy Game is a patriot. As patriots, we believe in the idea put forth by our forefathers in the Constitution. We believe that freedom of speech and freedom of expression are inalienable rights to all men. We also believe firmly that the titties in our game are absolutely spectacular. Why would we bother putting them in a game if players aren't going to be able to see them? When you play the game, you will be able to see real videos of actual spring break hotties. And what they failed to realize at the time is that they recorded a 17-year-old girl taking her top off and exposing herself to the world. And in December of 2004, Top Heavy Studios, the team in charge of making the Guy Game, was sued by a contestant of the show. It claims that she was underage at the time, thus making any media of her illegal to view, own, and distribute. But what does this mean for the actual video game? Obviously, it's illegal to sell. But what happens to those who already bought it? I mean, it was released in September of 2004 and wasn't fully banned until that December, meaning the game had 3 full months of distribution. And who knows how many people played this game unknowingly viewing illegal content. First off, can you introduce yourself, what you do, and what kind of cases you've worked involving illegal, digital, or physical media?
Yes, I'm an investigator with the state of Texas. I work in criminal investigations. A lot of the cases that I come across are usually, digital type cases, child pornography, possession of such, as well as some sexual extortion and other cases of that nature.
Now, as an investigator, how many people do you think you've arrested for illegal content?
Throughout my career, I've probably arrested somewhere in the ballpark range of 20 to 30 people.
Now, regarding this game, if someone bought the game before the lawsuit became public, what factors would matter today? What they know, why they kept it, or what they did with it, or even after finding out?
Yeah, these people that purchased the game, if they bought it back in the day, like when the game first came out, I wouldn't see any issue with it whatsoever. But it's more so after that court case came out, the civil court case, where it basically puts out for everybody to know that a minor was, nude in that game and exposed and whatnot. That's where the area gets kind of gray, because at that point, people know what's in that game, and people still go out there and they're still looking for it and searching for it. And that's where it looks like there's some intent to seek out and possess child pornography at that point.
Now, in a case like this, what factors matter the most? So possession, knowledge, intent, distribution, or the actual content itself?
Okay, in a case like this, I personally believe the factor that would matter most would be the intent. Somebody who's actively seeking out, this type of material, especially after knowing what happened in that civil case. Somebody who wants this game knowing that it contains child pornography, that I think would be the most important factor.
Now, once illegal material has already been pressed onto a disc and sold to the public, how realistic is it to ever fully remove that stuff from circulation?
Oh man, I would say that's completely impossible. Like, there's just no way. I mean, once something goes digital, or, in this case it was pressed onto a disc, but I'm sure at some point it's been digitized. And there's just no way to get rid of it, dude. The best thing we can do is just try to track it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Physical copies are almost impossible to track. There's no IP address to track or any sort of digital footprint. So I guess it just comes down to discovering it?
Yeah, that's really going to be it. I'm sure people have taken screen grabs of that girl and distributed those multiple times, I'm willing to bet.
The Guy Game was estimated to have around 80,000 copies in circulation within these first 3 months of release, meaning thousands of copies containing illegal footage were now sitting in homes across the country. But what about the major companies involved? You see, this game was advertised everywhere. Xbox put the game in an issue for their official magazine. TV commercials were put on G4 and Spike TV, two channels primarily focused on the male audience. Also, this was the age of written video game reviews. Big video game publishers were making reviews of the Guy game. Companies like IGN reviewed the game, but later retracted them with this message. Given that the Guy game was removed from sale due to the revelation that one of its on-camera participants being revealed to be under the age of 18 at the time of filming, the IGN editorial staff felt it was appropriate to remove this review as well. However, IGN still have videos of the Guy game on their YouTube channel.
Yeah! You've reached the sorted chubby level. You're halfway there. You want the question? You can't handle the question. On the original Star Trek, what was Mr. Spock's rank?
Stephanie's got something to prove. Now, Stephanie, in the last round, you got away unscathed. I have to tell you, I'm on a mission in this round.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna see him. Here is the question, Stephanie. On the original Star Trek, what was Mr. Spock's job?
He's the commander.
He is not the commander, he is the science officer, I'm afraid. Are you ready, Stephanie? 1, 2, 3. Stephanie, I have a question. How is it that all women just naturally know to push their boobs up when they show them? They just all know how to do that. That's awesome.
This wasn't just exclusive to IGN though. GameSpot, 1UP, and Xbox all had some sort of review for the game. Top Heavy Studios was on relentless media advertisement leading up to and during the release phase. They attended multiple festivals, bringing copies of the game for anyone to play, showing off how wild and crazy their game was. Hundreds, thousands of people, unknowingly witnessing illegal material being presented as entertainment. But like it said on their website, they are self-proclaimed patriots. Patriots that believe freedom of speech and expression. And being the patriotic team they are, they sent copies of their illegal game to soldiers overseas. And photos were returned and displayed on their website. Guys in uniform loved the Guy game. We sent some copies of the Guy game to US servicemen stationed in Iraq, and they sent us some pictures to show their appreciation. We're all about doing anything we can to make their job a little easier. Here are a few pics. Thanks. Matt the Tool Sadler. From an investigative standpoint, how is physical media much harder to deal with than something uploaded online?
Well, physical media is harder to get your hands on because it's just only so many copies of it exist. There's pros and cons, I mean, dealing with child pornography, it's all cons really. But as far as physical media goes, on the bright side, there's a finite amount of it. I mean, in theory, could you get every copy of this game? Yes, in theory we could. But as opposed to something that goes digital, once it goes digital, it can just be copied and pasted forever and ever.
Now, any sort of physical media, I'm assuming this is something you stumbled upon, maybe during an investigation, and I'm assuming it's usually images or videos.
Yeah, typically when we come across, like physical media, it's digital in the sense that it's usually on somebody's phone and it's just self-produced pornography or child pornography and whatnot.
Now, in your opinion, would the average person even know what to do with this game if they discovered that they owned it and that it even contained illegal material?
Probably not, but I would also wager that the average person who owns this game probably would never know that that game contained child pornography. I personally didn't know about it until recently after speaking with you myself.
Now, from an investigative standpoint, what behavior would start raising red flags for you? Like if I owned this game and started showing it to people and trying to sell it, uploading clips, or even defending it online?
Yeah, all that would raise red flags. I mean, once you know what you got and you know that it's illegal, like everybody knows possession of child pornography is illegal. So the second that you know that you have it and you're purposely showing other people or purposely touting that you possess child pornography to, people on the internet, that right there is where that area gets, from gray to, I think this person's pretty sure that they know exactly what they're doing.
Why do you think people are most likely to treat something like this as like a forbidden collectible instead of what it is, exploitation?
It's a tough question because I guess I'm not one of those people. But I guess some people would want something like this for its potential collector value. I mean, I personally don't see how some people could consider child porn being collectible, but this is a kind of a unique instance where it was released on a video game, mass produced, distributed, and then it came out a few months later, 6 months later or something like that, that it contained child pornography. So at that point, I guess there's some people out there that are like, oh, I really want that game, but I'd be willing to bet those people that really want the game want it not as collectible, but knowing that it contains child pornography.
Now, regarding these YouTube videos, so if someone uploads a video saying that they know a game contains illegal content and then play it anyway, how would you as an investigator interpret that?
Man, me as an investigator, I personally consider that intent. Like they're stating that they know what's on the game. They know that the game's illegal. And I'm sure in some instances they probably mention that it contains child pornography. And then they play the game. Like there's not much left to be determined at that point. I mean, ultimately it would be up to the district attorney's office. But yes, that's basically an admission to guilt. You're saying you got child pornography, you have an illegal game, and you're putting it out there. Like I said, it's pretty hard to defend against. I probably wouldn't want to be the defense attorney on that case.
With the Guy game being banned from over 20 years ago, it's safe to assume that this video game is gone from the mainstream media. Well, here's the strange part. This game has a small niche following. If you type in the Guy game on YouTube right now, there are various Let's Play videos. And in particular, there's one video that stood out to me. Popular YouTube channel Cow Chop made a video titled Illegal Trivia, the Guy game. The show's hosts, Alex and James, briefly discuss the Guy game and fully acknowledge that this game contains CP.
There is some controversy with this game. This game was actually recalled. The fact that I'm holding this game right now in my hand, in a way, is illegal. What? There is a girl in this game who they filmed, who I guess maybe gets nude, who is underage.
No, don't.
This game is considered child pornography. If the cops were to bust in right now, we're going to jail.
Dude, what the fuck, man?
The time that the footage...
They even go as far as to make jokes that they're going to be arrested for it. Even after everything became public, people still treated this game like a bizarre novelty. Knowing all this information, they still played it.
Illegal!
That's child pornography. See this studio here? Yeah, they're gone. Go to Meet the Babes, there you go. You'll probably get to see her.
Lori.
Keep going, it's not her.
Zoe!
No.
Zoe.
To be able to jog without pain, her ultimate dream.
It's because of her boobs.
Yeah, I guess.
Watching that video, what do you think about that?
Man, I think that's ballsy, dude. Like, he just straight up, admitted everything that he knows about the game, which is that it contains child pornography. It's illegal to have. It was an underage girl, possibly getting nude. I mean, like, he laid it all out, for you. I mean, it ultimately be up to district attorney's office and whatnot. But that's hard to defend against, man. It's hard to say I didn't know when you laid it all out like that, dude.
Yeah, and I guess that just kind of goes back to the comical aspect, is that people don't take it seriously.
Yeah, that's like crazy to me. It's like almost like it's in a way normalizing it. When people get on YouTube and just talk about it, like oh, it's like nothing to worry about. It's like it's a joke. It's funny and whatnot. But man, it's like that's just crazy to me, dude. That they're that open and ballsy about it. Just to put it on YouTube like that. That they're in possession of child pornography. That's basically what he said. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
That's hard to believe.
There are videos slowly surfacing on the internet of people still buying and fully acknowledging the game is illegal. Even on Metacritic, you can still find some reviews for the game. Reviews that came out long after the game was banned. Apparently this game is child porn. So much very bad in things. Why in the ever-loving fuck is it called the guy game if there is no women in it? There is not a single guy in this game other than the man looking at the TV screen. This game is so damn bad, words cannot even describe it. The girls are sexy, but the game is just a trivia game with stupid questions and just an extremely high price tag. I just cannot recommend it. There's even rumors in Reddit threads of this game being sold at gaming conventions, online, or even in stores across the United States. What's up with the guy game? I've searched about it recently because I remember it being removed from shelves, as well as being banned from countries. Recently have checked eBay, and suddenly see multiple copies being sold. How is it that eBay doesn't allow it? Dang. Only took 5 days into the new year to have another post about this game asking questions that get answered in about every other post about it. Short answer. It's technically CP. Possession of it is illegal. Short answer. No one cares. As for eBay, listings either sell quick enough to go through or sit long enough to be removed. Bought a bulk buy and it came with it. Pristine condition. Scared to sell it. Now, regarding content creation, what lines should creators not cross when covering something that may contain illegal material?
I honestly would just steer clear of it, just to be on the safe side. I mean, yeah, it's definitely a gray area, and this doesn't seem to be a case where people or investigators are actively pursuing charges against people that have uploaded videos of this and whatnot. But it's better safe than sorry, dude, just to straight up avoid that whole situation.
Now, if someone knowingly buys this game today, specifically because of why it was banned, how does that change the way you view the situation? Kind of going back on what we talked about earlier, would that be more so intent and possible distribution?
Yeah, I would fully see that as intent. At this point, people are finding out about what this game's all about, and you can't just go out and buy this game at a GameStop or a Walmart anymore. And it's even being pulled off eBay from what's my understanding. If people try to list this game, eBay's even, banning the listings. So if you're getting a hold of this game, you're going to certain links to get your hands on it. I don't know what websites you'd be using, but at this point you're hunting for something that is illegal. It's basically like looking for child pornography. You're not going to find it at Walmart, but if you go looking places, you'll find it. And that's the same thing with this game. You can't just get it anywhere. I'm sure you can buy it, I'm sure, but you're going to have to go to certain links to get it.
Now, going off that, I found a post from Reddit of people claiming game stores still sell this game, often keeping it behind the counter, or other stories of pop-ups at gaming conventions selling this game. When you hear something like this, what stands out to you?
Well, at game stores, if it's like a GameStop or a Best Buy or something like that, I find that pretty hard to believe. I find that, very unlikely, but also you mentioned like conventions and whatnot. I can totally see this being sold at a convention with somebody's little pop-up store or whatnot. And yeah, that to me is, again, it's people knowing, especially if you got it behind the counter or it's a game that you got to ask for. And then somebody, takes you to the back room and says, here you go, it's however much, X amount of dollars and whatnot. That's really crossing the line to, one, they both know what they're doing. Two, it's distribution. You're exchanging child pornography for money. And that just drags you further down that rabbit hole of like this going from a gray area to these people know what they're doing.
There's a specific Reddit thread I'd like to get your opinion on. Local game store is selling 2 copies of the Guy game. My local game store had a copy of this for sale a bit ago. Someone had called the police on them for having it. Police came in and talked to them and asked them not to display it in the case. They said it was legal to sell, but they did not want to have to come back and ask them nicely to keep it behind the counter. Yes, it contains CP, but apparently it does not make it illegal according to the police here. There's also several old movies, Romeo and Juliet is one I believe, that have underage nudity in them, and those are not illegal either. I'm not arguing for the ethical aspects of owning things such as this, just pointing out that you are not going to get arrested for having a copy, or the store selling it.
Honestly, my first impression of this thread is I would guess, my best bet is that it's probably somebody who made this story up. Is it possibly being sold at the local store? Yes, but I don't see how police could, be called to the scene, educated that this, this video game or this piece of media contains child pornography and just be like, it's cool, don't worry about it, like, you're good. So I personally feel like that's more of a made-up type story or situation, maybe somebody with the guilty conscience trying to justify what they had.
Going straight off that, I understand people may say cops are lazy or that they don't want to do their job, and that's neither here nor there. However, from the vast majority of officers I've worked with, crimes involving children are charges most good officers take seriously. It seems like they're always seeking out those crimes to make an arrest.
Yeah, that's definitely been my my experience as well. I've gotten calls from other officers who just even like think that, nudity or pornography in a sense on somebody's phone, that if the girl looks young, they'll call us and ask us to try to get our opinion or to try to get out there and see if we can, get a copy of the guy's phone or, dig deeper and find out who this girl is, especially if it's not somebody we can easily identify.
Now, regarding the collection, what would you say to a collector who argues, I only own it because it's rare?
In that situation, the details would matter. And it would come down to, we would need to ask more questions. Like, how long have you had the game? And like the circumstances in which you acquired it, because that point, that would matter. Like I said before, if he's bought the game, 20 years ago, however long ago it was, whenever the game came out, I guess you want to hold on to it because it's got some sort of value or whatever. But if you bought it recently, and again, knowing, what it has and whatnot, and you just, that, like, it's just, to me, it's hard to justify. I don't see why anybody would want to be in that situation.
For sure.
Because, like, if you're a rare collector of certain oddities or weird stuff, it's like, well, you want the child porn, that's part of your collection. You want to be able to tell people you have child porn in your collection. So, I mean, again, the details would matter.
In your opinion, why do you think people are so quick to say that nothing will happen to you? Nobody cares or you won't be arrested, when the game literally contains illegal material?
I would only guess because it's largely been, nobody's been really charged with it, or no cases that I know of or are aware of have been actively pursued against these people. So it's kind of like they're not gonna, you're okay. They're not gonna do anything to you. That's my best bet. Although I personally would not bank on that, just because you never know, man. I would just avoid the whole situation.
Now, in instances where illegal material continues to circulate, what does that do to a victim long term, long after the event has already occurred?
It's really like re-traumatizing. It really. I've never been in that situation, so I can't fully speak to it, just from what I've learned. But I can understand, why somebody would feel, re-victimized in a sense with their, with bad decisions that they made, or in other cases, being physically assaulted and whatnot. Like, there's different levels of child pornography. But if somebody just makes a dumb decision and sends out a nude when they were like 15 years old, that's gonna that possibly could haunt them for the rest of their life. From job applications to just bullying and whatnot in like high school and college. As far as the actual victims that are sexually assaulted and everything that goes down that route, I cannot imagine how they would feel knowing that their videos of them being abused as a young minor who really really couldn't do anything about it. Like, that's got to be horrible. Like, I can only imagine that would be one of the worst feelings in the world, to know that your video's still out there and getting recirculated amongst degenerates, really.
Oh, absolutely. And going off of that, seeing some of these YouTube videos where creators are boasting they have an illegal game and it not being taken seriously, I can't imagine how the victim must feel knowing that their exploitations are just being viewed as a joke or for content.
Yeah, I can't imagine what that girl feels like, especially with the whole civil court case and all that, where it's like everybody should know what's going on here. Now, I don't know that girl's state of mind. I don't know what she was trying to do at the time. I know that there's some circumstances about her using like a fake ID and whatnot. So I really can't speak on that, but I can imagine that at some point she decided that did not like what was going on, so she decided to pursue that civil litigation against them. So yeah, I'm sure it troubles her to know that her bad decision, in a sense, kind of just became a joke, and just a joke for clicks and to some people.
Now, based off everything we've seen today, in your opinion as an investigator, could this game get you arrested?
Yeah, I fully believe there's potential that this game, talking about it, knowing about it, and knowing what it contains, could get somebody arrested.
And while people still debate whether it's collectible, legal, or worth buying, it's easy to forget that there was a real person behind this. A young woman whose life was drastically changed forever. Not only was she exploited as a child, she knows that there is now physical media of her that still exists. Physical media sold as a collector's item or banned a game, with people not realizing how damaging this can be to someone. Regardless of the circumstances, exploitation was never justified. We still have to realize that what occurred was illegal and will forever follow this woman. Over the years, dozens of controversial games have been released. Games designed to shock people, disgust, or just stir outrage. But the Guy game was different, because beneath all the crude humor and party aesthetics, there was a real victim. A game that was assumed safe turned out to contain child pornography. And while most other shot games lose their luster over time, the Guy game continues to be sought after by collectors. People who claim they like retro video games. But in reality, their reason to own this game may be more sinister than we think. Now, I understand that kids can make mistakes, whether it be a high school relationship and pics get sent and circulated. And unfortunately, a situation like that can be turned into sextortion. How does that usually happen or evolve? Or what's something you've seen or been involved in?
From my experience, is it's usually somebody who's extorting somebody gets a hold of a naked picture of a person, and I don't know. I mean, whether it was consensually obtained or just sent around, and somebody got their hands on it. They're going to use that image as leverage and make threats. They're going to say, they're going to send you the image and say, hey, you better send me more images, or I'm going to put this out to the whole high school, or you're going to send me money, or I'm going to put this out, to the whole high school, to all your friends on Facebook. I'm going to put it out all over the internet. And, whenever we come across a case like this, the first thing we tell them is just understand that they might actually put that image out there. They very well might. We're going to try to find out who this is, but be prepared. And then also my advice to somebody who's in that type of a situation, do not send more. Do not send money. Do not send more. Go talk with your parents immediately. Let them know what's going on. And then, ideally your parents would see fit to get the police involved, because it's not going to stop. The second you start sending, like say they say we want, send us, 5 images, and then we'll delete them all or whatever. The second you send them 5, they're going to come back wanting 10. And it's the same thing with money. The second you send them money, they're going to come back saying we want more and more and more. And this hasn't happened in anywhere or within any of my experience, but I know there's multiple kids out there that end up committing suicide over being sexually extorted, being scared of the potential embarrassment that they might suffer, and just to avoid all that, they just commit suicide. And again, that's just talk to your parents, tell them what's going on. I guarantee 9 out of 10 parents are probably not going to, they'll probably be a little upset just that you made a dumb decision, but they're not going to be mad at you. Or, and if they are, then I don't know what to tell you, but ideally the parent would just be like, hey, you got yourself in a bad situation. It's my job as a parent or as a trusted guardian to get you out of it. So I think that's like, just be open and honest with them and go from there. And then don't send anything else. Don't send money, don't send pictures, don't send anything. Just talk to your trusted adult.
Now, what would you say to someone experiencing exploitation, or even a parent who has a child going through this? What would you say to them to hopefully avoid this situation or help resolve it?
Well, first thing is, I would tell a child or a minor that you need to go to a trusted adult, whether it be your parents or, a family member or an uncle or, like a school teacher, because sometimes family members are the abusers. So you can't always say, just go talk to your parents. Well, your parents might be part of the problem. So they need to find somebody that they can trust and somebody that's willing to help them. Like I said, like a teacher, or even just going straight to the police by themselves and letting them know what's going on. Now, as a parent, to deal with, your kid, like let's say like sexual exploitation or sexual extortion. I mean, if your kid, sent some images to some random person on the internet, and now they're trying to tell them like, hey, send us more, we want more, we want money, we want this, we want that, and your kid goes to you to tell you, hey, I messed up. I made a bad decision. This is what happened. This is the mess I'm in. My best advice is do not get mad at them. They probably thought they were talking to a real girl or guy, and they just, they're trying to navigate life in a digital world where, back in the day we had to go talk to people, and things are just different now. So I would just advise, do not get mad at them. Talk to them, understand what's going on, and then, get the police involved.
Now, I'm not sure if you would know the answer to this, but is there any resources for anybody who's already been victimized or has already experienced this issue and has came out the other end?
Yeah, I do know that there are victim services, and I know most all police departments, I believe all police departments, at least the bigger ones for sure, have victim advocates, people who it's their job to talk to these victims and to let them know what they have access to, whether it be mental health or stuff like that, just to help them get through this stuff, whether it be monetary support or a therapy and stuff like that.